The topic of the conversation today is the athletics program at Capstone Classical Academy here in Fargo, North Dakota. And joining me for the conversation is Brady Nash. He is the Associate Director of Athletics here at Capstone. And I'm Tom Tucker. I'm Director of Advancement at Capstone. Brady, thanks so much for joining me for the conversation. It's great to be here with you.
Yes, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You bet.
Excited to visit with you.
I guess the first question is, how did you come into this role of Associate Director of Athletics at Capstone? How and why are you here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just started with a journey of deciding to send our kids to Capstone. Mm-hmm. So really the first part was just, learning about classical education. It was also being very specific about I guess calling myself out and our family out on, we've been Christians and wanting to live it. Every day I challenge myself. You say you live what you preach, right? Whether that's in the business world and our personal life. And so as a Christian, it was an opportunity where I felt like, again, taking action on what I believe and what I say, that I think oftentimes us as people are often hypocrites. And I'm throwing myself and all of us at varying levels, meaning we say we want to be healthy, but yet we don't eat healthy. We say, we're Christians, but do we show up on Sunday and then we're not nice to neighbors? So all of those things was like, hey, here's this thing about this school that really seems like, going the extra length on bringing in faith and educating kids and understanding their faith, and not just because their parents are Christians, but because, they really understand historically from a biblical worldview. Like Christianity is also tied into our history of our nation and the world, right? Yeah. And who is this guy? And so all of those things where it's like, Brady, if you believe in Jesus Christ, yes, do you believe what your kids do is the most important, the most important decision that they make in their life is going to be what they decide to do with Jesus Christ. And it was, yes, I believe that. And then, diving into this school, I just like, wow, this is the next level of our kids really learning and understanding faith, learning other faiths and religions, being able to defend their faith. And I just felt like, we felt called to, I felt called to move the family here. I felt called to, a lot of the beginning families, if you want to call them pioneers, we weren't at the beginning, but pretty early on, right? We're here the very first year, and just feeling like we want to be a part. And my background in entrepreneurship, which I know we're going to talk about, it just felt like a lot of things God's lined up in my life. I was able to take these talents, skills, gifts, time, all of this, to just help and play my role, because there's a lot of people that play so many important roles to make this happen. I just wanted to play my role and, moving my family here, getting started. Specifically now going back to athletics, so first was just making a commitment that felt like we were called to go to Capstone and be a part of this ground up project where a lot of people are going to have to be flexible and have faith. And you have visions and ideas, but it's not there yet, right?
Faith and a little patience.
Yeah, faith and patience. That that being said, I think how fast this place has gone. I mean, only God can move. With the families that have supported this, with their finances, with their resources, their time, their gifts. I mean, it's just amazing how God can move. Even though we always seem to want it to go faster, that's how I feel. I could be going a million miles an hour, you're cruising, but I feel like I want to go faster. There's so much more. And so what I saw was just early on. I know how important sports are to many families, but I also think keeping it in the right place, right? Not making sports or athletics your God, but just like you can have a career and passions and want it and work at it, but make sure it's not above God, not above your family, right? But it's very important, and I think God, created us, that way. And so I just saw an opportunity where you're trying to get something going. Ground up, it's like a bunch of fires. Everyone's a firefighter. It's a startup. Everyone's got to wear multiple hats. I felt like trying to get this thing going, and for so many early families, you believe in the faith and you want the education, but it's like, man, you don't want your kids to miss out on these opportunities. And I just felt like, man, if there's a way that we could help get these sports and things up, which many of us believe, and the school believes, and I know Mr. Fisher agrees on this, that we see athletics as not extracurricular, but as part of the curriculum, if it's done properly. Well, what do you mean, Brady, if it's done properly? Meaning you got to have the right leadership And it is a lot more challenging as a coach to be engaged to do this properly. It means you're not just showing up and having kids run sprints. It's not just yelling at them. It's not just teaching them the sport of basketball, volleyball, track, football, baseball, golf. Like, yes, obviously we're there to teach them the sport and how to play it. But as a curriculum and helping a kid turn into an adult, a proper adult, it's teaching them, how to be a good teammate.
Yep.
How to be coachable, adversity and resiliency. Like, I just believe sports provide so many unique opportunities to simulate real life challenges and opportunities that these kids will be faced with as an adult.
Yep.
But you can do it in a fun way.
Yep.
That's like not taking their childhood away, but good things and bad things will happen that then you get to help them work through that, right? Yeah. So you believe in like that sports and academics. So it's like that was the foundation of the belief, and I just felt like me getting involved, that I had some bandwidth, I had some resources, and I felt called like, hey, like there's a lot more resources that this department needs of the school to have success. And also I felt like to allow some families to come early on, knowing that they wouldn't have to decide or sacrifice, hey, we believe in faith, we want the education, but now our kid can't play something? Yep. Well, that's a bummer. I'm like, well, hey, if we can combat that, if we can solve that, like I really think we owe it to the families to do it, and God's hands on it, it'll work the way it works, but why not do everything we can and let God do everything we can't? To allow us to have a sports program as early as we can and to build a quality program as quick as we can.
Let's talk about that a little bit. What is your vision for the sports program? What do you see? What's your roadmap right now?
Yeah, so we have, this last year we had junior high, boys and girls basketball. We had junior, I think it was 7th, 8th grade volleyball. Next year they're going to run, I think, a junior high and a C squad, I think is the intent. Next year we'll run a JV and junior high boys and girls basketball, and going younger ages, we're having 4th, 5th, 6th grade basketball. 4th grade is coming up to play with the 5th and 6th graders. And then, there's like metro leagues and even for the younger kids, and it's not really Capstone, it's just trying to help organize our families that are together. We had cross country, we have track that's going on right now. A couple of the other sports we'll be working on at Capstone are golf and tennis. I know we're up there. And
next year?
Maybe, yes. So okay. I don't want to speak out of turn. I know Kelsey's working on that. Okay. It has a lot to do with the ages of the kids and the interest of them. But they're sports that you don't need big numbers, right? Technically, you could have one golfer, right? So there's an opportunity. And then we've really been working with Shanley to co-op on the sports that are high number sports where we just don't have the kids. Yep. Where we can provide an opportunity for them to play. So we're co-op with them on swimming. We just signed an agreement with them to be a part of the, it's not parochial, but kind of the parochial schools with Shanley, Park Christian, Oak Grove, and then Capstone for boys hockey. Okay. And we're in talks with them. It's not officially done. We're working through like, hey, can we co-op on football? And there's interest. They're saying yes. That sounds like something that we want to do. There's baseball. There's softball.
When do you see the sports like football, baseball, and softball actually being viable and available to Capstone students?
Yeah, I wish I should have brought my chart. We had it all listed the year, so I don't want to speak out. But I think even going into next year with so a lot of those are older grades. Yeah. Right? When you really get to like junior high, JV, and varsity. So like football, like we didn't have anyone that would have played right now. So going into next year, we'll be enrolling so the younger kids can start doing camps and playing with them is the intent.
Okay. Long term, do we see sports like baseball and or football ever becoming separate entities here at Capstone?
If we have numbers, like okay. I know for us and for Paul, like ideally we would love to have all of our own sports, but to combat that, if we're gonna limit to around 40, 45 kids a grade, the reality is the number of kids it takes to field those sports is just very difficult. Yeah. There's other schools that have 60, 65 kids and can't field them. So we'd be doing it with, a lot less kids.
Yeah.
And so, if we were to expand the number of kids, which I know that's a whole nother conversation, or not above my pay grade, right? But I think if we had enough interest in kids, we'd love to offer anything that we can. So we would rather have our own sports. In fact, one of the cool things talking with Mark, the AD at Shanley, was really cool about was like, hey, like we believe and we want you guys to have your own sports, but I thought they were really cool and accommodating to be like, hey, but also, is it about us or is it about the kids? And if we can allow a kid to have an opportunity, to play a sport, like that's loving on the kid and loving on the family the right way.
That's right.
And that was kind of my point about bringing co-op of sports is like, if they're coming to Capstone, they're coming here because they believe and they want the type of education of what they're offering here. If they want to go to Shanley, they're just going to go to Shanley, which is fine and great.
Right.
If they want to go to Oak Grove, they're going to go to Oak Grove. If they want to go to Horace, they're going to go to Horace. So if they're going here, they're going here because of the type of classical education and teaching that they're doing that. Okay, great. Well, do we want to limit them on what they're able to play by sport then? And I think the idea is, well, we want to have the experience here, which I would agree, but when you can't field it, if we have an opportunity to not make a family split their kids up because they have 3-4 kids that maybe they play basketball and volleyball, but say they have a son that loves football. Well, I think it's a nice way to love on the family and be like, hey, they can go here and they can still play football. You don't have to send your kids to different schools or move your whole family.
Right.
So that's kind of the standpoint that we're taking as we try to, provide the best offering to our students and our athletes.
We're relatively new to the area, so we personally, as a family, I personally don't have a lot of any experience at all with regard to the co-op experience and what that might be like. Should there be a concern for parents who, let's say, enroll at Capstone, for example, knowing that their son, say, wants to play football and he's playing at Shanley? Will kids from Capstone get fair opportunities in co-op programs with other schools in these types of scenarios? Is there always the chance that maybe they may not always get the best opportunities? They may not be able to crack starting lineups. I mean, is that a concern, or is that I guess maybe it varies by situation, by player, and by school? Yeah,
I mean, I think it's a fair, I think it's a normal thought, right? It's a normal thought or fear you might have, but I think you hope that the integrity of the coaches, which I haven't seen anything that would alarm me, that hey, the kids are coming up, they're showing up, they're going to put the best kids on the field, and that it wouldn't be held against them. But it's like, what's the alternative, right? I mean, that fear is, okay, we don't have a co-op, you just can't play.
Yeah.
So, I don't worry about that. I think it's a fair concern, but I think that's something that the kids and the parents will have to judge when they're in it. But listen, when you're dealing with youth sports, any sports, and you've got someone deciding your position, your playing time, there's never not going to be questions. Everyone has an opinion. If you're a coach, right? If you've coached a little bit, listen. Even for myself, there's never been a game, a practice that I haven't got done, and I self-reflect about what could I have done better. And I find stuff all the time, and so it's just maybe feels better when we're doing it. And sometimes you don't always want to hear it from somebody else, but people have different ideas and thoughts, and sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong, sometimes it's somewhere in between. There's maybe some context to it, but sports is one of those things that I think everyone becomes an expert in.
Sure, that's right. Yeah. There's always second guessing, and even at the third grade level.
Yeah, we sit and watch professionals on TV and talk about how they're out of shape and how did they not get that ball right. It's funny how we all become critics.
Yeah, for sure. Talk about facilities a little bit. We have a gym here at Capstone.
A nice gym.
A very nice gym. We also are having conversations about a varsity gym at some point in the future with another phase of a building program yet to be determined or planned. As far as facilities now and future facilities, what can you share? What can you update us on?
Oh man, I don't know how much I can tell you. Like the hope. Those are board type of decisions, and I'm not on the board. But we got the JV gym, which has been a huge blessing. It's a beautiful gym, beautiful hoops, but it's one gym, right? Most places you want probably at least 3 if you're trying to accommodate proper practice times, game times, and to really run a proper program, I think you need at least 3. Ideally, even if you got to 4 total, wouldn't be a bad thing. You'd use it, is what I'm saying.
Right.
But obviously, even having one's a blessing. I think the future of this, you probably know more than I do, Tom, because you're the one going to be raising money for it. But you've got the varsity gym, we got the fine arts center, and then we have the refectory.
Correct.
We also have the backyard track and field. Whether that's going to be a soccer field in the center, or you could also have it set up for football. Those are things to get worked out. But the idea is to have a backyard field turf with a track around it for track and field.
When might we see that? Any idea on that?
I don't. I know when I've talked with Paul that's something that has not been pushed yet. That's on the original plans.
Right.
So it's going to happen. Yep. But I think it also comes down to it's tough to speak for people writing the checks. Yep. This is something that this whole place was able to be put up by a ton of very generous families. Yep. And so I feel a little bit like you don't want to assume or be disrespectful to them or anyone assuming that they're going to write a check. But I think once they start running those campaigns and we see the type of interest and where some of those funds will come, hopefully, I've got 6 kids. I've got 5 kids going to school here. Yep. I would love to see those things happen right away. Everyone wants them now, but I do think it takes time. I would love if there's a varsity gym before, Sky's an 8th grader, before she graduates. And my answer to that would be maybe. It's not impossible. It's possible, but I wouldn't take that for granted. I just know if you put the right people, we pray about it, God will move, and it'll happen the way it's supposed to happen.
Yeah, we talk about resources support, the work of the advancement office, the amazing support that has already been demonstrated here on behalf of the efforts to start this school. Phase 1 of the capital campaign was $55 million. Right now we're a little over $53 million. All the credit, all the glory goes to God, and the thanks to our amazing sponsors, such a generous community, and you included as well. You've exercised some amazing stewardship to Capstone, and so thank you to you and your family
my pleasure.
For that. What would you say to other school parents, other local community members, in terms of maybe inspiring them or encouraging them to also support the athletic efforts here in terms of financial support and stewardship?
Yeah, I think in fact, I think April 8th, this is a good one, we're getting all of the JV gym equipment. So, one of the things, we had a budget, and I was able to go around, you and I, and round up some families that donated money, and we were able to really make that a nice gym. I think we doubled the budget on that and get some really nice equipment. So even our high school kids, before a varsity gym is built, will actually, I would argue, have a varsity weightlifting gym and place to get stronger in performance, right? I think when you think about supporting the athletics, I think it's going back to, I touched on it already, but just understanding, I would argue, and this is coming from a kid that, I dropped out of college my freshman year. Most of what I've learned about business and going through, I pull from my experiences growing up through sport. And I think there's so much that can be learned in sport. Being a teammate, whether you're a starter, you're coming off the bench, a role player, and just competing, that if you can learn to work through that will help you in life. Whether you're an executive, a worker, you're a mom, a dad. And I think understanding that athletics, even if your kid's not the most athletic, can still learn so much that will help them through life. And understanding that we have a program, and this is where us getting the right coaches that we can mentor and understand, it's not just teaching them sport, and that their role is to really become a mentor and engage with their student athletes and get to know them. Because when you build personal relationships with these kids, you then can critique them or give them advice that they'll listen to. Otherwise, you're just someone that's hating on them and pushing them down. But when they know you care, then you have the opportunity to mentor them and help them get better. And that takes time. Relationships just don't happen by hitting a button. It happens through time and effort. And so really working and helping our coaches understand that, of what that looks like. It starts at the young ages as we move them through high school. And so when you start looking at supporting the sports program, understand it is as much, I would argue, in that development of, as much as we do in the classrooms, which do a great job, and that's very important, but it's very much complementary and very much a unique experience to help these kids kind of be a well-rounded adult, and leader.
Yeah, earlier we touched upon character development, and that's essentially what you're talking about here right now as well. That is, I know, a central theme for all of the athletic programming that you want to bring here. Talk a little bit more about that focus on character. We talk about the 8 virtues here that we're focused on, that are woven into our curriculum. Talk about character formation and that virtue development when it comes to athletics, and how and why that's important.
Well, I think just grit. I think, going into something and realizing that maybe you aren't the most naturally gifted at something. Yeah. I don't think I've ever been the smartest person in any room. I don't think, I was the most gifted in anything, but a lot of our success came from just the unwillingness to quit. Yeah. It was, in the business world, failure's not an option. I'm going to do whatever I can. And in the business world, that actually works out really well, And, I also think you can take from negative experiences in sports about how not to lead. What does a poor coach look like? You can learn from it. Now, here we want to teach them what a good leader looks like, what a good coach looks like. Yep. But when you deal with it and you see other coaches, maybe at other schools, how they treat players, if it's negatively, you're like, geez, that wasn't good. Or if you go to a camp and now you start understanding, well, what kind of a leader do you want to be? How do you want to handle that situation? Maybe you're a kid and a team captain isn't treating the right way. Well, how would you do it? How do you think it should be done? So when you can get kids to reflect on that in a healthy way, I really think it's going to help them learn who they want to be and the why behind that. Being a husband, being a wife, a father, a mother, a teacher. Some of these kids will grow up to be amazing teachers one day. And I think we can pull, like I said, good experience and bad experience and use it all for the positive. So when I think about, those virtues, of that, I just think there's opportunity every day. And I think it's really important for our coaches, and we have to be intentional. It's easy to sit here and talk about that, but you have to have a plan. And those are the things that we're working on, I'm working on, of ongoing training with our coaches to have a unified vision. So I think a lot of schools, there's schools that have great coaches. I don't know how many schools out there have consistent great programs with great coaching. Meaning you might hear about an amazing football coach, or maybe there's an awesome volleyball coach, and they inspire the kids and they love the sport and they're all learning and they're improving and they're winning championships and da-da-da. But is that consistent across all of it? What about track? What about baseball? What about cross country? What about, so how, and these are the questions when we're talking about this, how do you design that? How do you build consistency that a kid's getting a good experience from any coach they engage with? Well, that takes from a capstone or from a culture side intentionality. And then, accountability of how we're working with those coaches. And you got to have coaches that buy into that, yeah, I love the sport, but I'm also taking my responsibility of mentoring these kids as big, as much as I want to win and get these kids to play the sport, I actually understand the mentorship is even a bigger part. Yeah. And if you do that right, you're going to have success, you're going to win things, and that's cool, and that's great. Yeah.
You've recruited several coaches already. Paul has as well. Talk about the recruitment process a little bit. Are there challenges there? There's one thing to get somebody who knows the X's and O's, but then on top of that, we want to get people who are Christians and who are willing to disciple kids.
100%. Yeah, it's challenging because it's not like you can go and offer a coach this big salary and income. And what are you asking them to do? Well, hey, I want you to have emotional intelligence. I want you to be patient. I want you to be inspiring. I want you, now do you know the sport? Are you good at the sport? Can you teach the sport? Because there's people that could play the sport, but that can't teach it, right? So you got to be able to do that. You got to deal with parents. You got to be sympathetic, empathetic, be patient, and you got to be able to communicate because we're trying to develop them. And well, you must get a lot of money for this. Well, no, not really. And I need you, and maybe I can give you a couple $1,000s for a varsity season. I mean, in varsity sports, I'm shooting off the hip. It's like the ranges are like 3 to 5K. I think on some bigger sports you might get up to 6. The younger youth ones, you're talking $1,000 to $2,000 for a season. And I grew up, both my parents were teachers and coaches. You don't do it for the money. If you're a good coach, your thought process and the time you're putting into it. I mean, if they're making minimum wage for your mind share, it's surprising, right? But we want to reward the coaches. We want to treat them well. Yep. But yeah, you're asking a lot. And then, and obviously here the emphasis is, hey, faith is like not optional, like it's very important. Yep. And so you're trying to hit all those pieces. Yep. and someone that has availability, because when do you need them? It's not during the day. If they have a family, right, which is someone probably good with kids, maybe they do. Well, I need your time from like 3 o'clock to like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock potentially. Right. Well, that's family time. So it takes
big sacrifice.
Yeah, it takes a special person in the right situation, the right gifts. And so, we pray that God provides, and we can get the right people that are engaged and want to buy into all of that and believe in the bigger picture in their role.
Yeah. Well, so far I think you've done a great job of getting the right people in the right spot. So congratulations on that. We've covered a lot here over the past 25 minutes or so. Anything else that we haven't touched upon that you think is important for our Capstone families and prospective families to know about or keep in mind?
Yeah, some of the stuff we're doing right now, Kelsey Jensen as our athletic director has, I went after and recruited her because I just knew the type of person she was, the skills she had, project management, coordination, and her passion for sports. And what she's done here in a short amount of time has been amazing. I think we're already getting everything scheduled out for next year. I think we're even working on a lot of after-school programs for development. So one of the things, we have Golden Hour, right? Golden Hour is from 3:15 to 4:15, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And the idea is, can we get kids, make it convenient for parents to leave their kids at school for an extra hour and allow them to build some foundational skills? So think about another, like maybe advanced gym class that's focused on, hey, we're going to teach them how to dribble a basketball, how to shoot a basketball. We're going to teach them the lingo. We're going to teach them volleyball. We did that. I think they were doing some soccer this last week. And so some of the sports that we're doing, but hand-eye coordination. Even if you're not going to be a big athlete, I think learning how to move your body and footwork and control, it's a life skill.
Sure.
If someone throws something at you, can you catch it, and not have it hit your face? And so, the idea is get the kids young, make it fun, build their confidence, so when they do get into sport, they're not, like a fish out of water. They're like, oh, I kind of know this. And it's so important for kids to feel positive. When they go and they play an upwards basketball or volleyball or something, they're not the worst kid, they're one of the better ones. It's amazing how that one thing is like, oh, I like this. Yep. Or if they feel they're the worst, like, I don't want to do this. So I believe if you can help instill confidence, you can make it fun to get them out. I think there's a lot of families that will realize, oh, we weren't really athletes, but little Johnny seems to be pretty good, and this is fun. So we just want to try to encourage, give everyone the best experience, the best opportunity to move us farther along so they're hitting the ground running. We are going to have, even this summer, we're working on sports performance training here that we're going to, I don't know if there'll be a charge for it, if it's minimal or free. We're working through the financial end of how that will be, but we really want to engage with students on their nutrition, sports performance plan unique to what they're trying to do, whether that's basketball, volleyball, track, football, lifting. So we're going to have actual trainers coming in and working with the kids in the gym. We're going to have slots of time during the school year. School year might be weekend or evenings. When the school's out this summer, we plan on running it all summer. So I would say already for school that we're in our third year, this is how fast we have things moving. And we're just getting started. There's so much more we want to do, but we're just building the foundational pieces. And I think my goal, is I want people, when they come and they experience Capstone, and we're so big on the faith and the education, I think some people might think we're going to be terrible at sports. And I can assure you that's not going to be the case. And I just believe, can you do excellence across the board? And I think when they come and they watch, my hope, our student athletes compete, they're going to see kids that are competitive, are fiery, but they're respectful. They're humble in victory, and they're not sore losers when we lose. And I really hope that we can help set a standard there's other schools that do a good job too, that look at this and like, hey, like that's a standard.
Yep.
Like that's how we should be teaching our kids to compete. Respect the refs, respect the crowd, cheer appropriately, have fun, win or lose. Hey, we want to go and I want to win. Everything we're doing, I want to win, but in the right, and the right controls, and not get on a hand that I think it seems like we see videos of youth sports of fights and crazy stuff happening. Like that's uncalled for. Yep. And so we just want to build that healthy dynamic, and the chips will land where they land as far as winning and losing. And my goal is to maximize the talent that we have, to maximize the time that we get with these young people, and make it an experience that they can look back in their high school, their school, like, man, I learned so much and this helped me for what I'm doing today.
Yeah, well, great vision. We're off to a great start, and thanks so much for all that you're doing to make this possible. Certainly appreciate that, and continued success in the future.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with Brady Nash, Associate Director of Athletics here at Capstone Classical Academy in Fargo, North Dakota. Again, I'm Tom Tucker, Director of Advancement for Capstone Classical Academy. If you'd like to learn more, check out our website at capstoneclassical.com, and be sure to like and subscribe as well. Thanks for watching, and thanks for listening, and we'll look forward to another conversation in the future.